Hey guys, it's Ornlu, and I have another video with some predictions that I've put way too much time and energy into about the upcoming China DLC for AoE2 DE that is scheduled to release in, I don't know, a couple weeks or so. We really don't know. Mid-April is the to be determined release date. So last time I did a video on which castles I think, which of the existing castles I will be assigned to existing AoE2 civilizations, and you guys seem to be really interested in that. So this video, I am going to be doing a dive into what I am predicting the 5 confirmed civilizations are going to be for the upcoming DLC. 2 of them, Jurchens and Tanguts, I think are great additions and should make a lot of sense, and they are going to likely fit as AoE2 civs. But the big thing about this DLC is the 3 other civilizations, which people are way more conflicted about because it's not super clear who they're going to be. I think there's a lot of evidence pointing towards them being the 3 kingdoms, and I'm just going to say right now, I really hope I am wrong about this. I'll explain why I don't think that the 3 kingdoms would be good AoE2 civs later, but this is where you can, go back later, once the DLC is announced, and I'm completely wrong, and say, oh wow, Ornlu, you are a fool. However, if I'm right, you will all have to come back to this video and tell me how smart and handsome and perceptive I am. Or you could, just move on with your life, whatever you feel like doing. So this is why I believe that we are going to be getting the Tanguts and Jurchens sort of as a pair of civilizations in the upcoming DLC, and then why I think we are going to be getting the 3 kingdoms as the 3 remaining civilizations. So let's just break this down piece by piece. You can tell from all of the different Chrome tabs I have opened, I've spent way too much time on this. I don't think the Chinese themselves are going to be one of the 5 civilizations, nor are they going to be reworked to sort of overlap with any of the new civilizations. And this is a pretty straightforward guess, and that is just going to come from the fact that, developer note, the Chinese are now listed as an archer and gunpowder civilization and are receiving a massive update to their units and bonuses. So this indicates that Chinese are still going to exist as Chinese. They're a classic Age of Kings civilization, they're keeping the Chukonu, and although they're getting some other fun toys, it's still going to be a civ that is classic and available to everybody, even if they don't purchase the DLC. So Chinese, despite the DLC focusing on China, we can sort of put aside the existing Chinese civilization. Now, there is a lot of speculation as to Jurchens and Tanguts being 2 of the civs, and I think that, I definitely think that's going to be the case. I think they're great civ additions to the game. They represent different empires and people groups that, although in the Sinosphere, and they definitely would have considered them, at least the ruling classes would have considered themselves like successors to the Mandate of Heaven and all that. They are still completely distinct from the Chinese civilization as shown in AoE2. So why do we think that it's going to be the Jurchens and Tanguts? There are a lot of reasons. To me, the most obvious one is Genghis Khan 3 into China changed civilization of Jin and Tanguts. Now, Jin is the name of the Jurchen dynasty, and Tanguts, get this guys, are the Tanguts. Now, technically, Xixia is the name of the Tangut dynasty, so I'm kind of interested as to why they wouldn't be changed too, but I guess that's a whole different rabbit hole. That and the first 2 castles that were shown to us in the little promo trailer, both are indicative of the Tanguts and the Jurchens. Now, I take several of the images from Reddit, so again, credit to the people who did all the hard work with the Reddit stuff. But yeah, this person uploaded all of the images that were first released in 4K, which is very helpful. So, right off the bat, this castle here definitely feels like the Tanguts, and specifically a Tangut castle called Karakoto, which is like one of the capital fortresses of the Tangut Empire. Now, you can see these little, not like stupa, pillar, I don't know what you want to call them, those right there are going to look a lot like these things over here, and you still have the walls that, again, sort of invoke the idea of this former ruin. So this looks like it'll probably be the Tanguts castle. The other castle, this guy, has the banners here that were depicted in the Song Dynasty of the Jurchens. So right here, you see the black triangle with like a tannish circle, and boom shakalaka, triangle, tannish circle. And so that is, in many ways, on top of the campaign-based evidence that we're probably getting Jurchens and Tanguts, Fire Lancers and all that other stuff aside, the Camel Trebuchets, that seems to be pretty unanimously agreed upon, and I don't think is very controversial at all. that's not why you guys are interested in this video. I really think that we're going to be getting the Three Kingdoms, and although I obviously don't know for sure, I think there's a lot of evidence pointing in that direction. I really, really hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. So let's get into why I think that we're not going to be getting, say, the Khitans, Tibetans, or Bai/Dali, and why I think we're just going to be getting the Three Kingdoms. Because this, I think, would be ideal. This map over here. As, again, during sort of the Song Dynasty, this would be like right before the Mongols invade. You have all of these different non-Han Chinese-ish empires. Would like this to be the case. I don't think it's going to be the case. So, Ornlu, why on earth do you think that we're getting the Three Kingdoms when you yourself say they wouldn't make much sense in AoE2? Well, first off, we have this new unit called the Haiguang Cavalry, which is, all-purpose cavalry, blah, 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 blah. It can be implemented in whichever way you like. The Haiguang Cavalry also here can be seen in this sort of screenshot, I guess, of the tech tree. I'll also move my face over, where you have what appears to be a knight replacement, which the Haiguang Cavalry would likely be, and that is likely referencing this unit right here. Now, what is the Haiguang Cavalry? Also, I'm going to be butchering all of these pronunciations because I don't speak Chinese. This is literally the Wikipedia page on the Three Kingdoms military history. So you have Cao Ji here, who was one of the prince of the state of Cao Wei, which is, I guess, the successor state, I guess, to the Han Dynasty. I think that was Cao Cao's. Don't remember. But here we are. Haiguang Black Brilliant armor. So that would be sort of the big fancy armor for the cavalry units of the Three Kingdoms era. Now, more reasons as to why this is not going to be part of the Tanguts, Jurchens, or existing Chinese. And that is if you look at this tech tree. So right here, you have Fire Lancers, which are inherently explosive, as I've confirmed that those are new units. That is not available to this Civ, because we see in this tech tree, the Fire Lancer is a regional unit that is at the barracks. This tech tree here, it ain't got no Fire Lancers. And Fire Lancers you would equate with having some kind of gunpowder, but look at this civilization. No gunpowder, no bombard cannons, no cannon galleons, and no bombard towers. All right here, there is no gunpowder associated with this civilization. So that would make sense for a civilization that was added to the game that existed before the invention of gunpowder. Also note that this civilization right here that has the Fire Lancers also misses knights, but they don't have the Haiguang Cavalry. You can see they've got hussars, camels, and steppe lancers. So this is probably Tanguts or Jurchens. My guess would be Tanguts, but I could be totally wrong on that. But beyond just missing gunpowder units, which, like, say, oh, Ornlu, this could just be like the Tibetans, and they just don't have gunpowder, but they're still a Chinese civilization. Note here that we have replacements to the gunpowder units. Right here, we have the Traction Trebuchet, which is noted right here as a regional unit, which means, hey, this is a replacement to a certain unit archetype, I guess, that is not available to these civilizations. You have Drummons as a regional unit to replace cannon galleons for the Roman-era civilizations. You have Eagle Warriors to replace the cavalry units for the American civilizations, and so on and so forth. Traction Trebuchets seem to replace bombard cannons, and these ballista-y things seem to replace scorpions. Note that this civilization also does not have rocket carts, which are a new unit that is being added to the Chinese. We assume they're going to be added to the Tanguts and Jurchens, as well as Koreans. These guys just have onagers, by the looks of things. So they are not going to be getting the rocket cart. So again, no gunpowder at all. The Traction Trebuchet, meanwhile, is, you guessed it, commonplace in the Three Kingdoms era. Here we go. Traction trebuchets went into decline during the Han Dynasty due to long periods of peace, but became a common siege weapon again during the Three Kingdoms period. Also, you have them as ship-mounted weapons, which we can get to in a moment. The citation here, by the way, is from a Cambridge University press book from 1994, so maybe this is out of date, but still I think that would give us a likely idea that, okay, trebuchets became popular again during the Three Kingdoms period. So in my mind, it would make a lot of sense that we would have traction trebuchets as a replacement for the bombard cannon as your sort of long-range siege unit of the Three Kingdoms period when you, have no access to no other gunpowder. Ballistas as well could be something that was used in the same time period. Now we have the Luchuan, which is given to the Chinese civilization. That's in one of the balance changes. Now, this doesn't necessarily say this has to be a Three Kingdoms era vessel, because it's been there since, the Han Dynasty? Yeah, been in use since the Han Dynasty, which is before the Three Kingdoms time period. Although, again, mounting traction trebuchets on it could perhaps be a bit indicative. Where we could see that this is a regional replacement to the cannon galleon can be seen right here that they don't have cannon galleons, but they have their own sort of version of it. Again, this would indicate a civilization that does not have gunpowder, is Chinese, and especially Han Chinese, and use that with the traction trebuchets on it as long-range warships. Note that Chinese themselves don't get the traction trebuchets, or at least that wasn't mentioned in the notes. You can see here they're getting the Luchuans, but they're also getting rocket carts and fire lancers. Still, again, this is all situational evidence. Moving on now to more evidence. Here we have one of the castles, which somebody on Reddit did a great job of discovering, Yuri Guan here, that this is, guess what, based off of a replica of a Three Kingdoms era castle. You can see there are tons and tons of similarities here between the gatehouse right there and the building behind it. It is, guess what, a Three Kingdoms era castle that is definitely going to be in AoE2, related to one. I guess it could be for an existing Civ, but it's probably not going to be Chinese. We already saw what we thought were the Jurchen and Tangut castles, so this is likely one of the existing Civs or a Three Kingdoms Civ. More evidence. So if we go to the very end of this long patch notes post, we have this image over here, which I can't find a 4K version of, unfortunately, but well, we get to work with this. Now, again, we could be wrong, but there is a lot of stylistic stuff here with these spearmen that are reminiscent of what we would see in the Three Kingdoms era, especially like the spearman and shield thing is seen a lot in the sort of iconography of the Three Kingdoms. You can see that whole thing here. Now, obviously, these are just artist renditions, but again, it's not any one piece of evidence. It's the culmination of lots of little things. Also, an even bigger tip-off. This person right here. Now, somebody did a nice job of zooming on in, and you can see that we have this dude here. He's a hero unit based off of the glow, and he's got this little feathery thing going on. And guess what? We have Zhuge Liang. Great pronunciation on this, I know. And this is the individual who was an advisor for Shu Han, which is one of the Three Kingdoms, and he is credited with the invention of the Chuko-Nu. And you can see in many depictions of him, he's got this sort of like feathery fan thing going on with him. So that would indicate that this is a Shu Han city here. You also have this little fountain thing. I'm not too sure on that though, so I wouldn't want to point that as evidence one way or the other. And seen here as well is that there isn't any evidence of gunpowder. This also looks pretty tropical-ish, so it's obviously going to be something in southern China. Also interestingly, in a post from this individual, Gaudio590, that interestingly said Dali Civ is pretty much guaranteed, based off of this image right there that they think means Dali, and yet a lot of people in the comments are pointing out that this could easily mean Han. And of course, remember that the whole point of the Three Kingdoms was that they all consider themselves to be the rightful extension and succession of the Han Empire. Again, more situational evidence, shall we say, especially since this is in the same shot as the guy who's probably the inventor of the Chuko-Nu. So you have that, plus the castle, plus the tech tree, plus the Heiguang cavalry, all plus the Lutrons and the lack of gunpowder and all of this stuff, which in my mind together really, really heavily indicates that we are going to be getting the Three Kingdoms as AoE2 civilizations. Now, why do I not want this? Why do I not think that the Three Kingdoms would make very good AoE2 civs? Now, there are several reasons for this. One is that it's just not in the AoE2 time frame. AoE2 is fundamentally a medieval game, vaguely taking place between 500 to 1500, with things getting hazier and hazier the further away you get from that. Still plenty of stuff in the 400s and the 1500s, but at that point, you're really pushing it. The Three Kingdoms period, I mean, it makes the Romans and Huns look like they well belong in AoE2. This is from 220 to 280. So this is like still 200 years before the fall of the Roman Empire. That's just, it's not medieval. It's not, this isn't what we typically would associate with a civilization whose primary time frame is within the medieval setting of AoE2. Huns, again, and Romans are sort of, I would say, the bad example, and are exceptions to the rule rather than the rule itself that applies for basically all of the other civs. 2, the three kingdoms are not, they're not civilizations. They're political entities. They are specific empires. And in AoE2, we have civilizations, not empires. We don't have the Holy Roman Empire, we have Teutons, right? We don't have the French Kingdom of France, we have the Franks. All three of the three kingdoms were Han Chinese kingdoms, and would in general just be covered by the Chinese civilization. And unlike all of these other entities, they in many ways are not Chinese when it comes to ethnicity, language, ruling class, culture, fighting style. All of these, you can make really strong arguments that they are not well covered by the existing Chinese civilization, which is specifically in the AoE2 context, the Tang, Han, or the Tang, Song, Ming, and those are the three big ones in the AoE2 timeframe. The three kingdoms, again, it's basically just successor kingdoms to the Han dynasty, which is literally just the Chinese. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. They aren't necessarily unique civilizations, they are empires, kingdoms, states, whatever you want to call them. Lastly, this just didn't last a very long time. Again, the Huns were a very short-lived empire, and you could argue that, well, if that's the case, we can use it as precedent for another short-era kingdom empire. But again, I would argue that Huns are not the rule, but rather the exception to the rule, because they were designed in 1999 when they thought Attila the Hun would be a cool AoE2 character, and that's about as far as it went. You can see here that more or less this lasted 60 years. It's not some grand civilization that dominated the Middle Ages. I mean, these are short-lived kingdoms, and the only reason they would be put in the game in the first place is because Cao Cao and the Three Kingdoms period is just all over media and is sort of the big pop culture, I guess, era in sort of, I think, a lot of people's mindsets. You have the Three Kingdoms scenarios that are very popular that Philadelphia made. And again, it's just sort of like the Romans. It's well in the cultural zeitgeist, shall we say, when it comes to Chinese history. So for those reasons, I really don't think that the Three Kingdoms fit in AoE2. I think we're going to get them nonetheless, and I would love to be wrong about this. But of course, again, I could be wrong on all of this. I could be going in the completely wrong directions on everything I said. So laugh at me in the comments if you want, but if I am right, you owe me a sandwich or something. All right, guys, I totally didn't forget to record an ending to this video and have to go back and do so hours later. But regardless, thank you guys so much for watching. That's going to be it for this prediction of our upcoming civilizations. Probably have to wait till we get some more hints, some nuggets of information dropped to figure out more about what's going to be coming in this DLC. But let me know in the comments, are my arguments compelling? Do you think I'm crazy? And before I go, I do have to give a special shout out to my Patreon supporters who make me feel slightly less bad for spending so much brain power on this. But we have Dan and Jared in the Great Wolf tier, and then Carolyn, Dieter, Liquid Egg Product, Triru, and Tinduri Knight in the Dire Wolf tier. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed our brainstorming session, and I'll see you guys next time.